Hi, it's Sunday, March 21st, and I'm Mark Friedman, just an American citizen. Love being one, the greatest country, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest country in the world. Temperatures calmed down a bit. My friends I talk to who are more right-wing are they seem much happier. There's just no real contention out there right now, which is good. It'll be back, but it's good right now. Please share us and subscribe, and we're going to start talking foreign policy. Anybody's been following me can look for the last 4 or 5 years. I've left everything up. Foreign policy has always been my favorite stuff, and we're going to start hitting some of these nations that we have to get now. So we're going to bring up to date where I think it stands and where I think we have to go, because we have some real problems in foreign policy. I mean, real problems. We're going to start today on China. I've been always clear and open about how I feel about the Chinese people. Incredible. They work hard, they're smart. You're talking about centuries and centuries of history and culture, and they're family people, and it's just incredible when you see what happened, over there. I mean, we sure don't know the history over here in the West like they do, but I mean, the stuff I've learned about China over the years is just they're an amazing people. And the difference, though, major difference between the Chinese and us is that they've been ruled by strongmen for basically their entire existence. Think about this. The United States has only been around for 200, 300 some odd years in general numbers, depending on when you want to say we kind of started, and from colonization on or whatever. And yet the Chinese are centuries of being ruled either by family or by one person. And that's how they've been taught to understand how government's supposed to work. And it went through the Confucianism, right? And then that started falling apart. I'm just talking generally. I'm not saying I'm any genius on Chinese history, just a person who likes reading about it and learning about it, and have learned somewhat about it. And so as the Confucianism fell apart, then all of a sudden China started, falling apart a bit. And I'm just jumping dates. But as the Japanese came in, because they were always fighting the Chinese and trying to take over the China or chunks of China, the Japanese would be in there and the Chinese would have to fight back. Just before the World War II, you had somebody like Chiang Kai-shek, who was a warlord, but he was leading the Chinese government in the fight against the Japanese, while Mao Zedong was leading his armies. The communist government or the communist movement was leading his armies away from the front lines, because his focus wasn't China. His focus was getting power. So if you let Chiang Kai-shek fight, he's in better shape. And he just had the Long March, did his thing, goes all the way through. I mean, they did try a real democracy with Sun Yat-sen. What was that, 1910, around then? And that's when the Kuomintang came upon us. And so Mao comes in, takes out Chiang Kai-shek. Chiang Kai-shek goes to Formosa, which becomes Taiwan. We always hear about Taiwan. And Mao, another strong man, like Chiang Kai-shek was a strong man, Mao, in his way, just kills millions of people. He re-educates people. He sends them out to the fields, just overhauls the entire economy, and the people follow him. He had the Little Red Book. I don't have a copy of it, but I remember in the 60s growing up, it was the Little Red Book, Mao's Little Red Book. And I read parts of it. It was part of what we had to learn in school. And interesting, we didn't realize how he was really killing so many people, exterminating millions of people. Either way, Mao did his thing. They had to let 100 flowers bloom, or 1,000. That got crushed. And then Mao dies. Mrs. Mao and everybody get thrown out, and then it kind of works its way through. And I think it was Deng Xiaoping came in and took the step forward. Remember, Mao met Richard Nixon. I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over, but Mao met Richard Nixon, and that's when we recognized what was then called Red China. Okay, so now we're up here. Deng is taking China into a more capitalistic or modern economic approach instead of just top-down government. He wanted to see people have their own companies and be able to start making the economy move, however it was. And China really started happening, started growing, doing well, started intersecting with the rest of the world. and they were using every angle they could to get stronger, and you can't blame them. And they did better, and they helped themselves. The problem is, when you look at China being a strongman type of society, their problem is that everything comes from the top down. So when you talk about pollution, their pollution's horrible there, because how can government at the top see pollution over this gigantic country and be able to do things about it? They can't. You have government coming top down, taking over corporations. You had Alibaba. Alibaba, everybody knew about it, or at least in the stock market. You always heard about it. Jack Ma, the man, Alibaba. But Jack Ma was a big company, had loans, sold things. It was like Amazon and Google and everything all wrapped into one. But Jack Ma made the mistake of saying that China was going the wrong way. Jack Ma, bye-bye Jack Ma, shows up every now and then. Alibaba smashed, and then things, the Ant, IPO gone, because now you have this strongman who's who's just there saying this is the way it's going to be. But the problem you got is, remember with the coronavirus, when you're top down, the people on the bottom are always afraid to tell the truth to the people on the top. So when all this was coming down in Wuhan, the coronavirus, COVID-19, there was all these lies, and they attacked the doctors who were coming out and saying that the COVID-19, or whatever they were calling it then, was a problem. And because it's all top down, and everybody at the bottom has to keep everybody happy at the top. That's the weakness of the Chinese system. Remember, you got a system also where they killed kids. If you had more than one child, they had to die. They talk about Roe v. Wade here in America. They had to die. And if it was a female, a girl, you were going to be killed because you wanted a guy. So now, how crazy was that? So now you have so many less women and so many more men, and it's just a real problem, a real population problem in China. So they got a lot of issues they got to deal with. When we sit here and go, whoa, we got to really worry about them. We do. We have to respect them. We have to be prepared to not just be competitive, but be in between adversarial and competitive, both ways. But understand they got a lot of weaknesses. That's the end. That's what I was talking about at the beginning. So that's the end of part one. We're going to pop over to part two and talk about how we should deal with the Chinese, what we should do as we go forward. Either way, this is fun stuff. I hope you're enjoying it. We'll see. I'm just putting it out there because I'm just an American citizen, and everything's looking good here in America right now. Peace.